4, 3, 2, 1. We're live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
Welcome.
So me and John were just chatting, and we just decided to hop on and record it so that everybody can be in on the conversation. What were we talking about just now?
That's right. We were just talking about a series of things about how what kind of decisions we should make to build our brand, especially this podcast, and also the blog that we're starting out. So there was like some similarities, but also some diversion in our interest of doing those two things, and we want to see if we want to keep it more generic and same, or segment them into each topic. So we decided that for the blog, we want to focus specifically on just money making and wealth building, and for our blog, it's more of like a wide spread of topics that we like to talk about. And then I think we got into a conversation of my side job. I guess that's when the I said to turn on the blog, right? I think
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So that was the last thing that we were talking about, I think.
Right, because we were thinking about how we want to set up our brand in terms of this podcast and in conjunction and how that plays with this site we're building. And we don't know what the category the site is going to play into and how specific or broad it's going to be. But we do know that for our podcast, we wanted to talk about everything in life because we're interested in not just making money or talking about careers. We want to talk about psychology and spirituality and how to live a balanced and more meaningful life.
Right.
And so we wanted to. So our podcast is more broad, and our website is right now more specific, which is good for us because we get to focus on what it really needs to do. And for the podcast, it'll free us up and give us more space to talk about all the things that are of interest to us.
Yeah. So I just wanted to, I told Jason to start the blog because I feel like we're about to get into like some topics that going to expand out to some long discussion, and I just wanted to talk about it like in our blog, so we don't just like what we want to talk about on our blog, right? Just to keep things transparent what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
And the whole point of this is, for everyone listening to follow us on our journey and keeping up with everything
right.
that we're trying to do and keeping up with everything that we're learning. So the
Yeah.
main point is John and I were always learning new things and grappling with new concepts and hopefully
Yeah.
finding good strategies to approach life. And
Yeah.
sometimes things will work out really well. Sometimes we can fail spectacularly, and everybody will be all along for the ride, and it'll be fun.
That'd be fine too, because biggest failure is like the biggest lesson that you can learn.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's a good thing. And maybe some of you guys might go through this situation. I'm sure tons of people are in the same situation as we are, and you guys are pondering whether this is a good decision or another thing is a good decision. And we're gonna talk about our scenario because we're gonna make a decision, and hopefully that will help you guys understand or weigh out the decision that you guys are trying to make, right? So, I mean, I guess we have to kind of set the background in like why we're talking about this because, so Jason right now, he's actually doing this full time, right? Jason, you want to talk about a little bit about like your situation?
Yeah, sure.
Then,
So about a year ago, a little over a year ago, my work was offering this voluntary separation program for employees that were affected because they're restructuring, scaling down. Essentially, they didn't want to announce a layoff, and they wanted people to separate voluntarily. just to have an easier time offloading some of its overhead. So I was like, oh, cool. I was thinking of leaving anyway, so I'll take it. So I took that opportunity. Um, I hung out in California for a little bit, but soon after I pieced out to Asia, went back
What
to
time zone
Taiwan
was
and
this? To just get specific, like what
mhm.
timeline?
What timeline?
Yeah.
This was like summer last year,
So like
and then
June 2018, right?
mhm,
Okay.
summer last year, and then I went back to Taiwan to hang out with my family. I traveled in Asia for like 4 months, most of it on my own, like backpacking around. It was kind of one of those soul searching journeys, and it was really cool. I learned a
Awesome.
lot about myself. I learned a lot about how I think about things and my personality, and it was a really good time for me to recenter and recalibrate. Yeah, and then I got back several months ago. I think half a year ago. So it's been a while. I've been back in California now, and I've been working with John to essentially build a different kind of lifestyle that we always wanted to have. Instead of going right back into the job market, that's kind of like my plan B. If I need to, I can go back, but the end goal is always to come back out and build our own thing, right?
Right.
So instead of
Right.
going back, we're trying to figure out ways for us to get things started up right away
Right.
so that we don't have to spend any more time working for somebody else.
Right. What's interesting is around, I guess, a little bit earlier than Jason, last March, 2018 March is when I quit, or I kind of got burned out on doing the things that I was doing with my life. Um, I was pretty much chasing after three different things. One was my main job, which was like really chill, but also, paying me really good. So I kind of leveraged that to use that time for building my startup with a group of friends that didn't know anything. And also, I had another side job, which was working as a production or stage manager for a production company that did concerts, right? And there's deeper drama in each of those areas, but just chasing after too many rabbits, I tumbled down the hill and just kind of fell flat on my face, and I couldn't take it anymore. And last March, I just kind of gave up, and I quit my job and I moved back home to my mom's house. Like like physically, mentally, I just couldn't bear it anymore, right? And I had a little bit of money saved up, and I wanted to pursue something on my own. Like now with any group, I feel like there's a lot of drama just dealing with people, right? So for about 9 months, I was just on my own trying to figure shit out, what happened, like just really trying to recalibrate, like Jason said, like what the hell just happened. I came to realization like exactly like I was doing too many things. I was being too optimistic, right? And actually, that's right around the time when Jason, you and I started doing the whole mastermind sessions. Just you and me, 101. Remember?
Mm,
While you were
that's
in
true.
Asia.
Yeah.
So it really all sprouted from last year, and it's just getting more solidified this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and luckily, towards the end of like October, like October last year, like I completely ran out of money, and I think I told you, Jason, like I was in like $20,000 of credit card debt. I didn't know what the hell to do, and I just kept going downhill, 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 and my mom couldn't take it anymore. That I came back home, not working, not doing anything, just losing weight because I'm not even eating. So um, I somehow like brought up the courage to start applying for jobs again, start studying for jobs again. And partially it's because Ronnie. I want to thank Ronnie. I think he really introduced me to. That's when he introduced me to like Daniel and Keith. They're in our mastermind group. You guys can check them out through our blog site. There's the mastermind blog section where you can read about our mastermind group. So I learned about them, and I learned about the life in the Bay Area as an engineer. And I met Ben, and he set me up with an interview, which really got me the deadline to study for an interview, which I failed, right? But that got me on the ramp to start studying for more interviews. And after two more interviews, I got lucky and I landed a contract job with Intuit, right? So I started working for Intuit in January in Mountain View. So I had to move back. I have to move up to San Jose. And so for the past like 10 months, I've been just grinding, just trying to just get to the level 0, so where I can start again, right? So this is where we are. Yeah, you guys didn't miss anything. We're just starting this game again. So that goes say like this is really like a game, guys. It's like you try something, you fail, you fall, you break things, and then you have to recuperate, build back up, and then you start again. But by the time you get to the starting point again, you learn so much from those failures. Like it's much faster, and you retain all that knowledge. So it's a different game for you, right? So that's where we are at, and that's the background. And we were talking about again a multiple opportunity presenting itself for me, right? And that's the biggest lesson I learned. So that is a discussion that I was having with Jason, because he's my partner, and we wanted to discuss this type of things like in depth. And the opportunity is that last year, while I was kind of pursuing my own thing, I worked with I met a CEO, I met a guy at a hackathon, and we were kind of working together in this idea. And he was pursuing a funding from a Chinese company last year. I didn't hear a word about it until like earlier this year, but they had a little fluke because of the whole tariff on Chinese goods and Trump. There was like an issue with the funding coming overseas, and pretty much like a couple of days ago, he messaged me saying that he secured the funding and now he needs help, right? Because I've been kind of helping them out. I know what's going on with like their project. I know their roadmap. I met all their founders, met the teammates. We get along really well, right? So, but I'm already a full-time at Intuit. So, and they're paying me a really good job, really good hours, right? Where I can put more time into our blog and podcast. But now the opportunity comes to make more money. I'm just kind of swayed by the idea that it might be good for us to kind of have more income in our business right now, because our podcast and blog is barely starting up, and it has no income yet, right? So idea is, if I can bring in more income through another job, which will sacrifice my hour putting into our business, but in return, Jason can work. He'll be working as the same amount of hours, because that's 24 hours a day. But I can lessen the burden by getting more income, and then pretty much kind of like paying Jason so that he doesn't have to look for a different side job to get him, going through his day-to-day life, right? So yeah, that was like the basic topic and concern that we are just talking about. And I just wanted to like catch that on video, because I think it'll be very informative and kind of helpful for people that are watching maybe in the future. And I think before, like when I was a younger, more naive entrepreneur, it was more difficult to have this type of conversation with my partners, right? And I think it's very important that you do this and lay it out there, right? To make the best decision to move your company forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to get your feedback on like, what you think. I know we talked a little bit about it like yesterday, but um, yeah, I haven't talked to that company yet, but um, I'm not sure. Like, I'm kind of like leaning towards it could be my little fear that I might not be able to handle two things, but I feel like it might not be a good idea to go after multiple things again, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I had that experience from last year. Like, this is again going for three different things, right? I have my job, I have a San Diego company, and then I have this like blog thing that's running, right? So, um, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's my main concern. So,
Okay, I see. Well, first of all, um, thanks for sharing with everyone like everything that you've been going through this past year. It's something difficult for you to share with everybody, and I'm sure it has been a difficult time for you, especially around this time last year. And it's good, it's nice of you to open up to us so that everyone kind of has an idea of what you've been going through and how that affects your decision making right now
mhm,
and how that explains your whole situation.
yeah,
And yeah, and also we're sharing with you guys kind of our background to let you know that this is literally ground zero. A lot of the times when you listen to other people talking about life or business, they're already kind of mated and they're like, oh yes, I did this and I did that, and this is how you can do the same thing, which is good. It's good value and it's good information to see what's worked and see how someone has sort of distilled all of the good lessons that they've learned along the way. And that's one good part. And I certainly subscribe to material like that. And I guess our take on it is we want to have everybody on this journey with us as we try to quote unquote make it. Make it our own
right,
way, make it, construct our lives in the way that we envision it. And you guys will get this unfiltered, I guess, documentation of every step of the way, every flip up, every success, and all of these small conversations that we'll be having.
yeah,
Yeah, so I think that's something that's good for us to share with everyone, and it's good for us if anyone that's listening can give us feedback too. If we're, if we're not considering something altogether that we really should be paying attention on, that's something good to bring
yeah,
our attention to.
yeah,
But John, for your situation, it makes sense because I know you. You're a very curious person, and you're always I guess you're always paying attention to opportunities that come your way.
right,
So you're working a full-time job at Intuit, and it's not an easy job, highly technical, and you need to make sure that you put out good work through there. And at the same time, you're trying to build this business with me. So that's taking essentially the other half of your time in the day. And now this
right,
company is reaching out to you, and I mean, from face value, it doesn't sound like you can take all three, right? Like one has to give
right.
if you're going to go with this company in San Diego. And you mentioned that you will be making more money. Is that confirmed? Have they talked to you about how much they would be compensating you for the work?
No, but I guess it'll be good to talk about that. I think maybe
Mm,
the audience might be actually very interested in that too, because
mm,
what would be, I mean, is there a value that would be um, good, a value that makes sense for me to do that,
mm,
right?
mm,
And how can we decide that, right?
mm.
So,
Yeah, that's
um,
true. Like
yeah,
say, like your work at Intuit is a job, and then this opportunity in San Diego is also a job. And then this business is your business. It's literally yours,
yeah,
right? You don't have any bosses to answer to. So then the first question to ask is whether or not you should leave your job at Intuit and work with this San Diego company.
right,
And there's a lot of things to consider in that regard because on one hand, Intuit is a big company and it's It's a lot more stable than a startup,
Right.
in a different city that just got their funding. And you have to consider, if you're working for this company in San Diego, it's likely going to be a contracted role, right? For a certain amount of time, or you're not sure.
So I think they would like me to join them full time,
Okay.
but I highly doubt that they'll be able to match my current salary add into it,
Mm,
right?
I see.
Although there is a chance that this company's equity will pay a better return in the future because it is like going into a very optimistic market, which is the medical technology market in the U.S.,
Mm,
right? Which
okay.
is like very promising, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's no guarantee, right? And and second part is that also I've already talked to the CEO that maybe if I don't go full time, maybe there's some way we can work with like me going contract or part time, right?
Mm,
So
I see. And would all
and
that be remote because you're in San Jose right now?
right, it has to be remote, and that's the
Okay.
deal. Um, and that's the reason why I put up so much work with them and gave them so much like consulting for free because for this reason actually. So then
Mm,
we have some certain amount of trust that they can trust me that I'll attend the meeting and kind
okay.
of do the
I
work that
see. So
is
you've
necessary.
developed, you delivered a lot of value up front
Right,
when you're in San Jose, and you still were able to keep in good contact with them and work well with them,
right,
even though they're in a different city.
right. So the
Okay.
choices that the one I'm looking at, I don't really see me going full time. Like I know I can get the best, like the perfect offer, like equity will be perfect with the contract, but I'm probably not gonna get that. So
Mm,
like my current full time job, going on a 1099 would be great because I'll be getting cash up front, right?
mm,
So my brain's just working. If I get cash up front, we can take that income as my business income, separate from my personal income.
mm-hmm.
So we can expense some of that as like business expense, like for labor expenses or whatever, right? So then,
I
so then
see.
it's not taxed at the same tax bracket as my personal tax, right? So,
Okay.
yeah, if we use a lot of the money in as a business and out as a business, then I wouldn't have to pay extra tax on that income, right? And
That's
then,
true, especially at like a higher tax bracket because you have a full-time job. And
right, right,
and this is with the arrangement that you stay at Intuit, and then you work part-time remotely for this company in San Diego.
yeah,
And
right,
then now that with that you would have a lot less time as a resource, but then you would have money as a resource to be able to employ into to things that you want to build.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so since I'm in a 40% tax bracket, like if I had my job and then I would just do the San Diego job as a personal gain, then it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
make sense because I would have to pay 40% tax on all that extra cash I made, right?
Mm,
Right.
that's true.
So it'll be a lot of wasted money just going to the government, right? But
Yeah, that's true.
I'm thinking it makes sense if I can have it arranged so that he's paying my business as a consultant fee, and I'll write that off with my other business expenses that we run with this
Okay.
because this will be labeled
I
under my
see.
same business. Yeah,
That makes sense. Yeah.
yeah,
That would make sense, especially if you could work out some sort of rate where you figure out how much you would like to spend in your
hmm,
consulting business working on the stuff that you're working on.
yeah,
Um, because your pay rate doesn't have to be so high. So then maybe he pays less salary but gives you more equity in that exchange, right? If you
yeah,
say it's going into a promising medical tech industry,
yeah,
then it might be worth it to do that instead of getting taxed your part-time income with such a high tax bracket.
right. I mean, you mean like quit my current job and then go to the
No,
San Diego
not
job?
quit your current job. Like work with this company in San Diego where instead of like you figure out how much you would like to spend
Yeah.
as an expense for your consulting company, right? For
Okay.
yourself,
Right.
work out around what that number is,
Yeah.
and the company in San Diego is likely going to pay you more than that,
Right.
right? So then maybe they pay you less and give you more equity,
Mm,
and that way
yeah.
you don't pay any tax if your income is close to zero, but then you get
Oh, I see
more
what you mean.
assets
Yeah.
or
But
yeah, but
that's another
that's
way.
dependent on exiting, right? The company has to exit for any of that
Yeah.
to
Right.
matter. So that's one
Yeah.
thing to think about.
Yeah. But right now, if I'm going that route, then I'm not even thinking about our blog and podcast. So,
Mm,
like, I think to be honest, I don't want to be swayed
mm,
another way anymore. Like
I
those
see.
opportunity looks awesome and like tasty, but I feel like
Mm,
I mean there'll always be opportunities like that. That's why, and
mm,
like I really want to be able to focus on like our thing and us and building our thing, right?
right.
Yeah.
That's true.
So,
Yeah. And
but
yeah, like so a little bit of background, me and John have been trying to do this Airbnb thing too a couple months ago.
yeah.
Because right now I'm running a small, very small Airbnb business, and an opportunity came up a few months ago, back in summer, beginning of summer, of someone that wanted to invest some money into something in
Into
California,
yeah.
and we pitched this idea of expanding my business or starting a business using my expertise to build this Airbnb business.
Hmm.
And he was interested in investing some money, a sizable amount actually. So we were working on that for a bit, building business plans, doing research, and making sure we have everything in order so that it all makes sense, the numbers look right, and everything is kind of good to go. And then, we're all in discussions and everything, and recently we've also been talking about whether or not to go through with it, right? Because the investor has his own issues that he's dealing with right now.
Yeah.
So the progress hasn't been going very quickly. And then we're also thinking that if we go through with this now, then we become like owners slash employees again at some mini startup,
Right.
and we're thinking about whether or not that's a good choice if if we're always trying to build our own thing.
Right.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
yeah, in that sense, the company in San Diego is also this other person, this other entity coming in with an opportunity,
Right.
and and
That's
it's challenging to think about if that's a distraction or not.
exactly
Yeah,
like
and these are the type of decisions that are kind of difficult to make in life, and that we're trying to work out.
yeah.
I'm sure like many people
And
have had
I'm
these
sure.
opportunities come in their face, and they don't know what to
Yeah.
do because like, do I stay with my job because it's safe and it pays well, or
Yeah.
do I try to go with this guy if they have a
Yeah.
good exit strategy and I can
I
get
mean,
paid a lot after that?
this is like a really like a blessing in disguise. Like it's a
Mm,
happy decision, right? It's like, oh, more money, fuck, right?
mm, mm-hmm.
But it's we have to make the right decision, especially for this case, right?
That's true.
Um,
It's an important decision.
I
As
think,
long as we don't like,
yeah,
my whole thing is once you make a decision, then you don't look back. You just
yeah.
go
It's
all
it's
in.
more
But
about
it before
yeah,
that, we have to like really think about
yeah.
everything.
So for me, it's more about like I mentioned earlier, like I'm more focused on trying to build our business up, right? So I
Mm,
want to be able to make the decision based on the benefit of our business, and if
okay,
not, I want to be able to cut it, you know.
I see.
And that's not just this decision, but going forward, right? So the benefit has to be for both party, but it needs to be in favor of our business in our perspective, right?
Mm,
Because that's how I want to start, you know, kind of shaping my mindset in general, right? Because I definitely want to build ours, right?
mm,
So I guess that's a challenge in trying to make this decision with the San Diego company,
mm,
and also the Airbnb business. Because let me tell you guys, it's gonna be very difficult. There's gonna be a lot of disguise, right? Present it for you guys. Because for Airbnb example, since Jason um, is in this full time right now, so he doesn't have other incomes. So we were going after this Airbnb because the investment kind of guarantees that Jason's payment as a full time contribution, right? But
Mm-hmm.
we were excited and we're just chasing after that, like just kind of tunnel visioned into it. But I kind of came to realize after we had this hiccup that gave me a chance to think a little bit more and realize if we take the investment, we're in it for the full time, right? And if we're in
Yep.
it for the full time for our business, then we're not in a full time for any other things, any of other businesses, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Especially if we're taking in investor money.
yeah,
If most of the input is from investor money and I'm
yeah,
working at a full time,
right,
I wouldn't want anyone I invest in to be working on something else for a long
exactly,
time either.
right. We can, but
Yeah.
investor would definitely hate that, and they
Yeah,
would
and I
not
know
want to
us,
see
we
that.
wouldn't do that. We would just be doing Airbnb the whole
Yeah,
time, as much as
right,
we can.
right, right. And that's the thing. So and so those were the decisions, and it was a hard one to talk about that with Jason too. But
Yeah, for sure.
we did lean towards just cutting the Airbnb thing off completely, even though we can keep pursuing and persist and kind of get something right or find a different
Hmm.
funding or whatever. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, so again, another decision, and I feel like going forward with our journey and businesses, I think this will be very common, like all these opportunities, right?
Yeah, that's
Like,
true. As you meet
yeah,
more people and people know what you're doing or the
yeah,
things that you're into, they're always going to connect you with people that are looking to start this up, are looking to pour money into something and
yeah,
trying to get your input or your contribution.
yeah.
Yeah.
And,
For
and
this Airbnb thing, go ahead.
I think this will be very, very interesting um, persona of our podcast. Actually, just to be able
Mm,
to share all these decisions and then like all the opportunities that come up, and then
mm-hmm,
I mean, a lot of people probably won't even believe maybe not these opportunities, but in the future when we're making like other deals or something, it might be really
mm.
hard for people to believe like these things are happening. But
Okay, yeah, like,
and
oh,
that's
how can these guys turn these things down when
yeah. But
mm-hmm,
I guess that's the point of sharing these things early on, so then people will know that this is like, oh, our channel, we've been doing this forever. So there's no point
mm-hmm.
of us like lying about these deals. Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting that we
Yeah,
keep
and we're
keep
literally just trying to figure things out as we go. So our decision to put this Airbnb thing on hold or at least not go with the investor,
yeah,
uh, we think this is a good decision. If it's not, we'll find out later, but we won't worry about it at all because we'll be worried about other things. We'll be focusing our energy on things that we're pursuing. And and we plan to still do Airbnb in the future, but not in conjunction with somebody investing money in us and us having to work full time on it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you were gonna mention something about Airbnb.
Uh, right. I forgot what it
Okay,
was.
yeah.
Yeah, it'll come back.
Sorry to put you on the spot there, but
Oh no, it's all good.
yeah, yeah. I think that was so. Yeah, so to get to the juicy stuff, I was doing the math yesterday, and I was like, how much should I ask, right? It's
Mm,
like how much is enough, right?
mm-hmm.
And I feel like I can, or if I do agree to work for them, I should at least put in like 20 hours a week because
Mm,
anything less, I wouldn't get any work done, right?
true.
So I have to carve out 20 weeks, 20 hours a week, right? So that's about 80 hours a month that I can contribute to him. Um, so 80 hours a week, a month. How much do you think is enough, like with before tax? And I was thinking, I was like, because it has to be. there needs to be enough margin where. So my argument is like, hey, Riza. His name is Riza, right?
Mm,
Hey, Riza. So, I'm really open to working with you guys, right? But you have to understand that I also have a business that I am working with my partner, and for me to carve out my time to work for you guys, like the compensation has to be enough to fill my position in my business, right?
mm.
Because somebody
Okay.
has to do my work, right? Whether we outsource it or you fill it up, we're gonna need to fill that space up, right? I don't want that
Right.
to just like stay empty because that'll just like make us go slower.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking the compensation has to be pretty much like higher than just me working for him, right? So it needs to be me working for getting paid, and there needs to be a margin so that I can supply into that field spot, right?
Okay.
Is that right,
Yeah,
or
I
is
mean, it makes sense. I mean, it has to be that way to justify you working for him.
right?
Because if it's the normal going rate for a software engineer, then it's going to be very similar, if not as much as what you're getting right now.
Right.
So you're picking up more work that takes more of your time for less pay.
Yeah. And here's my concern is because they are a San Diego company, their rate, the labor rate is probably 20-30% cheaper than the
Right,
rate
that's
here,
true.
right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing, right? So, so I was thinking, um, the math. Let's see. Let's do the math. Calculator.
A few moments later.
So I was thinking if I do $80 an hour, right? That's 1,600 a week, right?
Okay.
And in a month, that'll bring extra $6,400, right? Yeah, it's not really about the money. It's a lot of money, but it's just like I feel like it's not enough to replace me as a part of like the partner, the driver of our business. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like I don't know if we can like hire or like replace anybody with that money to get our thing rolling faster. You know what I
I
mean?
see.
Yeah,
Well, that's true
yeah,
given the stage that our business is in right now.
hmm,
Because right now it's at a critical moment where a lot of major decisions are being made that would ultimately impact the trajectory that we'd be going towards. If
yeah,
we're already kind of sailing along and it's rolling, then it makes sense. It's much easier to contract somebody to offload some of the work.
hmm,
But if it's at such a beginning stage, it's hard to even know what to outsource for.
yeah, yeah. So
I mean, there's
then
some we can
because
do, but
yeah.
yeah, it's hard to do that.
Okay, so let's say if I get okay, what if I ask for like $100 an hour, right?
Mm,
So that'll bring $8,000 a month, right?
right, that's a lot. I
Let
mean, do you think they'll be able to
uh,
support that rate?
hypothetical, right? If it's
Uh,
$8,000 a month, right? What can this $8,000 do to accelerate our business? Like, if
mhm.
that makes sense, it might be worth considering at that this is a rate. Like, okay, if it's $100, I'll just tell them $100 or no deal, right?
Mm.
If I get it, oh fuck, I have
Yeah,
to do it, right?
I
But
see, I see.
again, the number has to make sense. Like, can what does this eight
Mm,
thousand dollars mean, right? How can we spend it? And of course,
mhm.
like there's like year-end tax that we have to worry about. So probably want
Yeah,
to put
that's
away like
true.
30% of it, right?
Yeah, a lot of that is
Yeah.
gonna be taxed for sure. And so,
So
and in terms of outsourcing, I mean, the biggest thing that comes to mind would be hiring help for ghostwriting. We have a lot of topics, a lot of content we want to push out, And then we've mapped out a few topics already, and we have like a whole list of the things that we want to write about, a lot of content we want to make, and it would make sense to hire someone to get the research together and put things together and shape our ideas so
Okay.
that we can, it's less homework for us to do, and all we have to do is go in and make sure that everything is in line with what we're trying to say, and then in line with what we're trying to present.
Okay.
So there's that,
So
but you can't contract major business decisions. Right, like for example, the site. We're still figuring out the structure of everything, and then the flow
right,
of how traffic is going to be managed, and those things would be up to us.
right, right,
Yeah, and brand building is going to be us personally, though that can't be
right.
outsourced. In terms of us, like Jason and John.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if we do have this fund, right,
Mhm.
then let's try to think completely like radically, and then let's say if we have this fund, we have so after tax, I save for tax, and there's about $5,000 that we can utilize, right? So let's say how can we use this money, given that like after a certain amount of year, we definitely want a return on investment of like what we're putting in, but $5,200, like would that give us enough bullet to pretty much like delegate tasks and and can it ultimately speed up our business? Right?
I see. I think it can. It can, especially since we've kind of mapped out a lot of what we wanted to do.
Okay.
And we have a lot of ideas we want to try out. The problem is the amount of time
Okay.
we can spend on executing
Okay.
it. So if we're able to optimize the direction that we're able to give the
Yeah.
people that we can hire to carry out these small tasks that we then stitch together,
Yeah.
then we can iterate much faster. Then we can pursue this idea, put it together and release. And
Yeah.
then next idea, put it together and release.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So it can. It
So
definitely can because your time
okay.
is a resource, a form of
Right.
resource. And then
Yeah.
there comes a point where your compensation from this company in San Diego matches the inherent value of your time that you would be giving to them. That would make sense for you to make that trade.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's not to say that if you work for this company in San Diego, that you're going to drop out of this project altogether.
Right.
You'll just
Okay.
have
And
less
then
time to do like the grunt work.
that is true. So then what do you think is like fair compensation for you to put in that extra hour to like cover me, right? So
That I'm not sure, really.
yeah. So what do you think your like or like current budget wise, like what is it the amount that you need to kind of like um
Or like sustain myself,
yeah.
essentially. I mean, with my Airbnb now, I'm okay. I don't need like that much more
Okay.
because, and we shouldn't because we would
Okay.
be taxed 2 times then, right?
That is true. You can just expense whatever you need from the business account if you need to
Well,
like
would we be taxed 2 times
well
or
you'll be
not?
taxed.
Because if you expense it right through your
Oh
LLC,
yeah. Yeah.
then we wouldn't be taxed 2 times because then your total income is going to be calculated after the fact.
Yeah. And
It would
then
be it would
but
be
you'll get taxed, but you
yeah,
can also
I'll
write
get
that off.
taxed. I'll get taxed and then you get taxed and I can write and also I'll be taxed at a much lower rate.
Right. Right.
So
So
I'll get taxed at a lower rate and you offload that so that
yeah.
those don't get taxed as high.
So it's actually better that I do pay you up to a certain amount or whatever the lowest the edge of the lowest tax bracket is, it's probably like worth going to. Let's see what the tax bracket.
Yeah, that's true.
Brackets. Okay, so 9,000, 9,700 is 10%.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, so 9,700 is 10%, and
see.
97 to 39,000 is 12%. So it's better to pay you around like $800. No, yeah, 800.
Well, I mean that's gonna be calculated along with my Airbnb income too.
Oh, that is true.
So it's gonna add on top of that. So I'm already at like a certain tax bracket. I'm not making no money. So
I think you're probably in the 12% bracket then with the Airbnb alone.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta talk to my tax guy to see. Because I don't have that much expenses. The biggest thing is rent for the property, and that's a big chunk. So hopefully the net revenue is not going to be that high.
Okay. In that case, then I guess if we do decide to go this route, then we can have you can just kind of like expense the things that you need to expense from our business account directly, right? Does that make sense?
Wait, what was that again?
So I will get a debit card for you so you can use like for meals, like gas or whatever, from the business account. So then we're not dispersing extra or separate like payment to your as like a 1099.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. Right. Yeah. If the things I'm spending for our company is an expenditure instead of paying me and then I pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then right, and tax wise, I'm at a much lower tax bracket compared to you.
Yeah.
So whatever we can do to lower your tax liability is best.
That's true.
Yeah. And that's one important thing in the meta game.
Oh yeah,
is
right.
to limit the amount of taxes that you have to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's good to pay the taxes that you're owed because the government takes that money and does some stuff with it. But I personally think that it's much better if you pay less tax to the government because it's bloated and has so much overhead. And if you acquire a lot of wealth later on, you can use that money in a way that you know will help the people that you want to help. Instead of just blindly giving that money to the government and trust that they'll spend it on the right things, which they won't, because most of that is going to be spent on military.
No, seriously.
And other shit that we don't fucking need. So there's that.
Yeah. You're so right.
So I don't feel bad at all about paying as little tax as we can. Anyone that thinks it's a citizen's responsibility to pay tax. Yeah. In a way, yes, but when your tax dollars are not going into the right places, then it's your responsibility to make sure that that money can instead go to something more effective.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, it's your responsibility, right? If I mean, I believe the system is created so that it can be utilized to whatever way you want to utilize, or be fooled by the way it's structured, right? And that was like the biggest learning process of like last year trying to start my own business. And that's probably one of the reasons why people get stuck in the lower class and just stay there, because they don't try that hard to understand these different technical regulations that would help them improve, like, or kind of keep their tax money, right? And just because it's like a mere 3-4%, they say, right? Oh, 3%, whatever. But that's how you become rich, guys. Like you have to save those margins here and there, and those little pennies saved up to be a huge wealth because you save 4% every year, and then you have a little bit of chunk of money that you can invest somewhere, where you're gonna earn another 4 or 3% every year that accumulates, right? And you just try to optimize different areas of your life that you can create this low margin of interest that build up to a big chunk of sum of money. And I've just like, I'm sure you and I both, we've just kind of dove onto this like whole financial game, but that's what it is, right?
Yeah, and we've also been really we've been talking a lot about the idea of running your life like a business, because this country, when when it was being founded 200 years ago, it was created in order to help businesses flourish.
Mm-hmm.
Our capitalistic system is best suited for business. And that's not limited to Walmart or Amazon or Microsoft. It, it can be applied to every single person as long as they treat their lives like a business. And when you do that, you're in a way operating under similar parameters that the founding doctrines were operating in.
No, 100%. I mean, I feel like, to be honest, people that are under W-2, under employment, are completely getting fooled because anybody that's working for themselves for like a part-time job, restaurant job, or whatever, you, in a legal term, is representing a company, a sole proprietary company. So you represent your own company and you're consulting and contracting to this other small businesses, right? So if you can't save money and you're running really poor, that means you're managing your business very, very badly, right? And if I had this idea, like I started working like 14 at age 14. I mean, I've had jobs when I was like 10, like, posting flyers and stuff. But in America, I really started working as a busboy at a restaurant when I was 14. And I pay my taxes, and I got a check. But I never knew that I was under 1099. Like I was always filed with my mom in the same tax, right? She claimed me as a dependent, and I have no idea if this accountant was capable of like getting her all the returns or not. But knowing what I know now, right? I feel like I could have saved so much more money, expensed all my school stuff, expensed all my meals, expensed all my hobbies, right? Right? And I could have gotten so much more tax breaks, you know, if I had known that earlier. I could have expensed my bedroom to get an expense for my home office, right? We could have lived in a bigger house, not live in a small 1 bedroom apartment. So like knowledge is key, right? And over time, all that little interest, because started working so early, all the interest could have built up to a great wealth, like 10 years, 15 years ago now, right? So if you're listening to like this and you're 14, 15, and you're working, like please, like make an effort to study your finances. If you want to know more, like leave a comment. Like if you don't know where to start, just leave a comment, and then we can reach out and guide you, where at least point through in a direction where you can start, right? Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
yeah,
it's
but
gonna be hard, I guess, to start out when you're first starting out trying to understand the whole system, because, well, one, it's gonna be really boring unless you really have a knack for finances. But it's gonna be boring. It's gonna be a bunch of phone numbers you don't understand, a bunch of laws, and a bunch of percentages that change from time to time, and it might be daunting, but it's important to learn, even if it's just a little bit here and there, as long as you understand the main concepts and the gist of it.
yeah, it'll stay
Like,
with you forever. The earlier you
mhm,
know, the concept will stay with you at age 14, 15, 16, 17. So it's better to learn it now. Like if you learn it
mhm,
later when you're like in the mid 20s, like you miss all those years where you could have actually utilized that knowledge, right? Just
You miss all those years
yeah,
of growth in terms of your finances
yeah.
and your
So
personal business, because like concepts of sole proprietorship versus an LLC and how different tax entities when filed as an LLC or an S corp, things like that, that's the language of
yeah,
money.
yeah,
And
and
in order to be good at making and retaining your money, you need to speak the language. You need to understand what all these things are about. And I think that's why a lot of Americans just go to work and they collect a check and they don't even know like how much tax they're paying every year, or what percentages of those taxes going to Medicare and Social Security and things like
yeah,
that. Because it's hard. It's much easier to just work, trade your time for a paycheck, and you go home and watch Netflix. It's easier, but then
yeah,
you're not privy to all of the other things going on with that exchange of money. Your money that you've actually made but never got to see.
yeah. It's very important to ask questions. If I ask questions about like what each of those taxes meant, and just kind of go dig deeper into each of those tax um, segments and read upon it and what they're about, and that could have kind of like trailed me into what other what tax um, income like 1099 or W2 types there are. Then I could have understood like how 1099 file their taxes and what tax breaks they have, right?
Mm,
So um, question the details, question the little extra things. Things in life are just not um, by coincidence. Like
mm,
I just think you are, right? If you think things are coincidence, you're just overlooking things oftentimes, right? Everything's kind of built and done for a reason, right? Oftentimes, more than
mm.
less. So yeah, please question those little details.
Yeah, and don't just chuck things off to up to luck or circumstance. Like, sure, that person might be really privileged because he grew up in a wealthy family and had access to a bunch of information about finances. But instead of writing him off, but writing that person off, you can think about, okay, well, this person is where he is now because of all these things that he has been fortunate enough to be around. Well, how can I get that same sort of environment around me to
Yeah,
develop under,
yeah,
right? Instead of just writing things off as luck, as privilege, which is fine. Like this life is not fair, folks. So your best bet is to figure out what's working and how to recreate that in your environment and how to recreate
yeah,
that in your approach so that you can actually get to where you want to go.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's that's a great goal. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I think that's a great way to look at things. And pretty much that was what I wanted to talk about. And I think
Mm.
I'm really glad we caught this in the blog. I think we should do this more often.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. We literally just stopped our conversation and we're just like, okay, let's record this because I think this is a valuable conversation to have because this is a major decision that John has to make and we're discussing it and I think it makes
yeah,
sense to share it and
yeah,
show everybody what our process is.
yeah.
So
Because it's
John, I
not
think you,
easy.
yeah, and you still got a lot to think about, but it's good to let these ideas ruminate in your mind
Yeah,
and process and weigh things out so that you can make a better decision.
yeah. It's because it's definitely it's not an easy thing for me at least to like bring up and talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that like if it's not easy for me, it might not be easy for many people. So
Mm.
um, for those type of things, it's always easy to kind of hide. But I think in the current generation, it's very important that we share those things like topics like depression and
Mm-hmm.
sensitive topics like that. So um, very informative, very educational, and hopefully people find it helpful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's what I wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people are gonna find this really helpful because it's so prevalent. Dealing with tough times in your life, it's kind of a common theme in life.
Yeah.
People say life is full of suffering. It's like guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Don't
because John, you were
worry.
sharing it, people will connect with you and know that they're not alone in facing major decisions that they have or facing certain bad situations that they might be going through right now.
Yeah. I mean, we'll definitely be sharing the good stuff too once we get
Yeah,
there.
for sure.
We're
Sharing
dying
every
to
step
get
of the
there.
journey. Yeah, we
Yeah.
will.
Don't. Yeah. So yeah, keep on looking, keep on hustling, um, and I think this is a good place to end the podcast. Unless you have something else that you want to talk about.
No, I think this is a good time. Yeah, 1 hour.
Yeah.
Well, that was an hour.
Yeah. Right. So, oh, by the way, next time I guess we kind of dove into the topics that I want to talk about, but next time I want to talk about our passions. That's like the topic that
Okay.
I've been kind
Yeah,
of meaning to talk about.
that would be fun.
Yeah, because I guess I'm curious, and I think the audience will be kind of curious about like our background, like give us more context, like why you guys doing what you're doing, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah,
we can go.
it'll be a good look into different parts of our lives.
Yeah, and if you have any topics that you want to talk about, you can certainly bring that.
For sure, definitely
Yeah.
let us know if you want to talk about anything or you want to hear us talk about anything that's going on in our lives, in our minds, and we'll be happy to talk about them.
All right.
Cool. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Tuning out. Bye bye.